I watched a plant I put in the ground with my own 2 hands crack my garden path clean in half. Took 3 years. Cost me more to fix than anything else I have ever bought for this garden. And the worst part? It was sold to me as a low-maintenance perennial. That one mistake taught me something I wish someone had told me years earlier. The most dangerous plants in your garden are not the ones that die. They are the ones that thrive in exactly the wrong way. Today, I am giving you the list I had to learn the hard way. 10 perennials I genuinely regret planting. And I'm not talking about the usual suspects you have already heard about 100 times. I am talking about plants that are still sitting in garden centers right now, labeled beautiful, easy, and low maintenance, while experienced gardeners quietly shake their heads. If even one of these saves your garden path, your lawn, your raised beds, or your sanity, this video did its job. Plant 1. Houtunia cordata, the chameleon plant. This one broke my heart before it broke my path. The chameleon plant is genuinely one of the most beautiful ground covers you will ever see. Those heart-shaped leaves come splashed in red, yellow, and green, sometimes all three on a single leaf. In a container or a photo, it looks like something out of a luxury garden catalog. In the ground, it is a different story entirely. Houtunia spreads by underground rhizomes, thin, white, wiry roots that travel horizontally in every direction. They snake beneath patio slabs. They push through the liner of raised beds. They surface in the middle of your lawn, 3 feet away from where you planted them. And when you try to pull them, they snap, and every piece you leave behind becomes a new plant. I have spoken to gardeners who spent 2 full seasons trying to remove it from a single bed. Some gave up and built over it. One told me it came back through the new gravel. If you love the look, grow it in a buried container with the bottom cut out to limit spread, and even then, watch it closely. In the ground with no barriers, it will rewrite your garden layout without asking permission. Plant 2. Comfrey. I want to be careful here because comfrey has a genuine fan base, and for good reason. It is a powerful compost activator, a pollinator magnet, and a plant with deep roots that mine nutrients from the subsoil and bring them to the surface. In the right context, it earns its place. But here is what nobody tells you before you plant it. Those deep roots, and we are talking roots that can reach 6 feet down, make comfrey virtually impossible to fully remove once it is established. Cut the plant to the ground and new shoots emerge from root fragments within weeks. Dig it out, and any piece of root left behind, even a small one, will regenerate. Some gardeners have spent years on a single clump. It also self-seeds freely if you let it flower, which means one plant can quietly become many before you have notice. If you want to grow comfrey, choose the sterile Bocking 14 variety. It does not set seed, so you can control its spread far more easily. Plant it in a dedicated spot away from beds you want to keep clean, and never let it flower unless you are prepared for what comes next. Plant 3. Jerusalem artichoke. Here is a plant that will feed you beautifully and then refuse to leave. Jerusalem artichokes, also called sunchokes, produce edible tubers, grow tall with cheerful yellow flowers, and are genuinely productive. That is exactly why so many gardeners plant them, and exactly why so many gardeners regret it. The problem is the tubers. Every season the plant multiplies underground. You harvest what you can, but you will always miss some. They are small, they break off, they scatter. The ones you miss overwinter and come back the following spring. Then more of them. Then more. Within 3 or 4 seasons, what started as a small planting has become a permanent colony that shows up in the same bed year after year, whether you invited it or not. I have seen them come back through black plastic mulch. I have seen them survive hard freezes. They are tough in ways that are impressive, until that toughness is working against you. If you want to grow them, dedicate a contained raised bed with solid sides that go deep and commit to thorough harvesting every single year. Treat it like a crop with consequences, not a set it and forget it perennial. Plant 4, sweet woodruff. This is the quiet one, the polite looking one, the one that creeps up on you so slowly you do not realize what happened until it is already too late. Sweet woodruff is marketed endlessly as a delicate shade-loving ground cover, and in the right conditions, it does look lovely. Soft whorled leaves, tiny white flowers in spring, a gentle green carpet beneath trees or along shady borders. What the label does not tell you is that it spreads by underground stolons across an area much wider than you expect, and it does it gradually enough that you keep thinking it is fine until you look one day and it has consumed the entire bed, until your hostas are gone, until your ferns are struggling, until the plant you invited in as a filler has become the main event and not by your choice. It is also not easy to remove once it is settled. The root system is dense and shallow, which means pulling it disturbs everything around it. And it comes back from fragments. In a container or a very deliberately isolated spot with hard edging on all sides, sweet woodruff can be beautiful and manageable. In an open bed, it will rewrite the design on its own schedule. Plant 5, soapwort, Saponaria officinalis. Soapwort has history behind it. It was used for centuries as a natural cleanser, and it is still grown today by people who appreciate its medicinal and historical roots. I understand the appeal. The pink flowers are pretty. The plant is tough and unfussy. It is also one of the most determined spreaders you will ever put in a garden. Soapwort travels by both underground rhizome and by seed. That means it is working from 2 directions at once. The rhizomes push outward from the original clump, surfacing in your lawn, between paving stones, in gravel pathways. The seeds float away and germinate wherever they land. Within 2 or 3 seasons, a single plant can have children across half your garden. It is particularly frustrating because it looks tidy and contained above ground while it is quietly spreading below. By the time you see it in unexpected places, it has been traveling for a while already. If you want it for cutting or for historical interest, grow it in a pot buried to the rim. And deadhead every flower before it goes to seed. Half measures will not hold this one. Plant 6, ornamental knotweed, Polygonum/Persicaria varieties. Most gardeners have heard warnings about Japanese knotweed. What fewer people realize is that ornamental knotweed, sold in garden centers under names like Persicaria, fleece flower, and various cultivar names, can carry the same destructive instincts dressed up in prettier packaging. Some varieties are genuinely well-behaved, others are not. And the problem is that they are often sold without adequate warning about their behavior because they look stunning, tall, dramatic, covered in pink or red flower spikes, and they sell well. The aggressive varieties spread by underground rhizomes that can travel significant distances. They are strong enough to push through landscape fabric, lift pavers, and work their way into structural gaps. They are difficult to remove completely because any root fragment left behind will regenerate. Before you buy any knotweed relative, research the specific cultivar thoroughly. Ask your nursery staff directly about its spreading behavior. Some are fine, some are not. And once you have planted the wrong one, you will understand why this plant has such a complicated reputation. Plant 7, ostrich fern. Ostrich fern is genuinely beautiful. Those tall, arching fronds have an architectural quality that looks stunning in shade gardens, and it is one of the few large ferns that is truly hardy across most of the US. I am not going to pretend otherwise. But beautiful and well-behaved are not the same thing. Ostrich fern spreads by underground runners, stolons that extend outward from the crown and produce new plants at intervals. In ideal conditions, which for this fern means moist, partly shaded soil, it can spread aggressively enough to take over an entire shade bed within 2 seasons. It does not show its cards early. The first year or two, it looks contained. By year 3, it has moved in ways you did not expect. It is also tall, easily 5 to 6 feet in good conditions. So when it spreads somewhere you didn't want it, it makes its presence very clear. Grow it where it has room to move without hitting anything valuable, and set hard underground barriers if you want to keep it contained to a specific area. Treated with respect for its spreading habit, it is a genuinely rewarding plant. Treated as a well-mannered filler, it will surprise you. Plant 8. Feverfew. Feverfew is one of those plants that gardeners discover, fall in love with, and then spend the next several years managing the consequences. It is a cheerful daisy-like plant with ferny foliage and a long bloom season. It has a history in herbal medicine. It is attractive to pollinators. On paper, it sounds like exactly what a garden needs. In practice, feverfew self-seeds at a rate that most gardeners are not prepared for. A single plant produces an enormous quantity of seeds, and they germinate readily. In beds, in cracks, in gravel, in neighboring pots. The following spring, you do not have one feverfew plant. You have dozens, possibly more. The seedlings are easy enough to pull when they are small, but the window for that is short. Miss it and they are established quickly. Let even one go to full seed and the cycle resets at a much larger scale. Deadhead religiously every flower before it has any chance to set seed, and you can keep feverfew manageable. Let it do what it naturally wants to do, and it becomes a weed factory that pulls resources from everything growing around it. Plant 9. Evening Primrose. There is a moment in late afternoon when evening primrose opens, and it is genuinely one of the most beautiful things you will see in a garden. Those large, silky yellow flowers unfurl quickly, almost visibly, as the light shifts. Pollinators arrive. The whole thing feels almost magical. Then you learn that a single evening primrose plant can produce up to 10,000 seeds in one season. 10,000 seeds from one plant. Evening primrose seeds are small, light, and very willing to germinate. They spread into lawn edges, gravel, neighboring beds, cracks in paths. What started as a few plants in a cottage garden border can produce hundreds of seedlings the following year across a wide area. Some of those will be in places you cannot easily reach without disturbing other plants. The plant itself is a biennial or short-lived perennial, which means it relies on seeding to persist. And it does that job very efficiently. If you want the flowers, and they are worth wanting, cut the seed heads off before they dry and open. Every single one. It takes vigilance, but it is the only way to have evening primrose without eventually being overrun by it. Plant 10. Creeping Jenny, Lysimachia nummularia, and then there is this one, still sitting in garden centers right now. Still sold as a pretty easy filler for containers and hanging baskets, still given to gardeners without a single word of caution. Creeping Jenny is listed as invasive in multiple U.S. states. It escapes containers, roots at every node as it trails, spreads into lawn and beds, and is genuinely difficult to fully eradicate once it has established across a wide area. The golden variety, Aurea, is slightly less aggressive, but it is not innocent either. In a container on a hard surface with nowhere to root, it behaves beautifully, trailing, bright, low maintenance. That is the version you see in photographs. That is not the version that matters. The version that matters is the one that escapes that container, touches the soil, and starts moving. It moves low and fast, staying close to the ground, rooting as it goes. By the time you notice it in your lawn, it has already been there for a while. If you love the look of aim and it is genuinely attractive, keep it strictly in containers on solid surfaces. The moment it touches open ground, it stops being a plant you chose and becomes a plant that is choosing for you. Here is the thing I want you to take away from all of this. None of these plants are evil. Several of them are genuinely beautiful, genuinely useful, and genuinely worth growing in the right conditions, with the right approach. What makes them regrets is not that they failed. It is that nobody warned me about the specific ways they succeed. And now I have warned you. You are going to make your own gardening mistakes. Every gardener does. But you do not have to make these 10. If you want to know what I actually do, recommend planting, perennials that give you beauty without the battle, that video is right here. Go watch it next. I will see you there.